Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnick here from Eyes on Cricket. I'm just having to resend a link for this particular event. We've got a, first and foremost, I should say Merry Christmas to you all, as it is Merry Christmas. Invite the guests. Let's let me go, this link's the same. It's the same link. So Norman Kochnick here for Eyes on Cricket. It's just, oh, it's working. Anyway, so we have two matches on tomorrow. Two matches. We have, of course, Australia. There you can see there, Australia versus England, with Pat Cummins resuming his captaincy. And there's some interesting selection changes in both the Australian side and for that matter, the English side. The Australian side have rather unusually brought in Scott Boland. I would have said unusual. He's Victorian, it's his home ground, but both Jai Richardson and Michael Neser both played particularly well in the previous test and deserve another go. Now, it seems like Jai Richardson is actually suffering from some form of soreness, which means he's not playing. And of course, Pat Cummins returns. So in that case, with both Stark and Hazelwood still out. So it meant that Stark continues to play. Pat Cummins returned not only as the bowler, but also the captain. And that meant that both Jai Richardson's also out for soreness. So Cummins in for Richardson, that seems to be a logical reaction. But Michael Neser could easily have played, but it seems, but they've opted for Scott Boland to play his test match. I think it's his debut, as a matter of fact, for Australia. Marcus Harris seems to have kept his position over Khawaja, who seemed to be pressing quite strongly. So the Australian side is, of course, you've got Harris and Warner. First drop, Labuschagne, Smith, Green at 5, and you've got Head. Maybe Head goes in only 6. 7, of course, is Carey, and then 8, 9. 8 will be probably Cummins. 9 will be high there, Nigola bottom. So 9 will be Stark. Then you'll have 10, 11, a combination of now Scott Boland and Nathan Lyon. Did public view Smith as Australian captain again? Look, the Australian public has been rather quieter, but he has snuck back in. He was made vice captain, and of course, the last minute situation with Pat Cummins and the COVID-19 contact that he had to opt out very late in the piece. He's back in now, so Smith's not captain, Cummins is captain. So let's see if that returns back to normal. So that side, again, I'll go through it very quickly. Harris with Warner, with Labuschagne, Smith, Head, Green, into Carey, then Cummins and Stark, and that leaves Lyon and now Scott Boland as the 11. So we're waiting on Simon Willis, the high performance coach for both Sri Lanka and also England, and has great knowledge about the England side for sure. Waiting on him, he hasn't arrived yet. That's the Australian side. The England side have actually had four distinct changes, with Zach Crawley coming into the opening position to replace the dropped Rory Burns. He will open with Hamid, and of course we'll have both Milan and then Root going in 3 and 4. Now number 5 was previously Pope. It is now going to be Bairstow. Bairstow has gone in ahead of Pope, so they've taken out Burns, replaced by Crawley, and Pope replaced by Bairstow. 5, and you'll have 6. You'll have more than likely Ben Stokes. 7 will be Butler. Josh Butler's kept his place. Then you'll move into a situation where you'll have the last 4, which will be Oh, okay. Jack Leach has returned. He's in place of Wokes, maybe not in that batting order position, but he has replaced. That's a third change, with Jimmy Anderson keeping his position, Ollie Robinson keeping his position, and then you've got the other bowler in Mark Wood coming in for Broad. So there are 4 changes. In comes Crawley for Burns, then Bairstow for Pope, Leach for Wokes, and Wood for Broad. So the batting lineup again is Hamid, joined by Crawley, Milan, Root, Ben Stokes, Bairstow, Butler. And we move into the 8th position of Ollie Robinson, more than likely. Then perhaps you might see Leach and Wood, and to finish it off with Anderson. So you would argue the England side has certainly been bolstered. What about versus India versus Test 1? It's also, we're talking about some other shots. We're also going to be talking about that with, of course, Rohit Sharma not playing, Kohli there now. The vice captain is KL Rahul. You would argue that Rahane won't be playing. Pujara may still be playing. Interesting to see who will open with Rahul. I think it should be Agarwal, but maintain how he batted. And of course, Shreyas Iyer is there as well, and he should be in place for Rahane. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So it really is going to be interesting to see what happens with that match as well. So we've got 2 test matches tomorrow, starting Boxing Day, which is December 26th, traditionally. Let's see if Simon Willis is coming on or not. The link is working because I've just been on there. So effectively, the India-England series is certainly going to be a major discussion point. You would think that South Africa's side are distinctly weaker than they have been for some time. The South African side do not have Faf du Plessis, for example. They've got some interesting selections in that side as well. I mean, their bowling line, you'd argue, is pretty strong. The South African bowling line is pretty strong. And they're talking in terms of India breaching other fortresses they take on transitioning South African side. So the breaching of the fortress is, in fact, the fortress there, of course, is Fortress Centurion this time, a bit like the Gabba. Terence Aldrin, as India chances are very slim as their number 3, 4, 5, just can't bat. Well, I would. That's a bit too hard a statement. So the big picture discussions about that match between India and South Africa, on the one side, a team playing in its fortress, which is Centurion. They're in Gauteng and Pretoria, Johannesburg, basically. A team that managed to breach one in Australia this beginning. So what really, Fortress Centurion normally traditionally goes in favour of the home side, South Africa. But we said that about the Gabba, and Australia fell there too. Cumulatively, South Africa and India have played a total of 18 tests this year. South Africa have played only 5 of those, with the last one at home coming against Sri Lanka in January between them now. And so there's not much South Africa. They didn't play against Australia, of course, as we know. Let's look at these sides. So players to watch, of course, Kagiso Rabada at home will be pretty unstoppable, you would think. But team-wise, the probable South African lineup they're saying at the moment is Dean Elgar, Aiden Markham, and they're pretty reasonable openers. Keegan Peterson, know very little bit him. Rassie van der Dusen, Temba Bavuma. And so Dean Elgar's going to captain, which I think is an improvement than Bavuma. Quinton de Kock, Juan Mulder, Maharaj, Rabada, Nagidi, and Dwayne Oliver. And India apparently have had a press conference, and KL Rahul, who's vice captain, has said that the press conference that India look likely to have a 5-bowler strategy, which will be interesting. And welcome, Simon Willis. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Norman.
You look very Christmassy with that top on.
You hear me okay?
I was just beginning to talk. We've got a big day of cricket tomorrow, and I'm glad you could join me on Christmas Day. Obviously, Dave Graveney and the Vernon family are busy having their Christmas lunches, but I had mine, obviously, a different time frame here. I had my period this morning with my 90-year-old mother, and I spent some time with one of the Bangladesh cricketers, Jansul Shimona, who's doing really well here. She's had a couple of great seasons. She's killing it, playing for Bankstown this season. She's killing it. She took fourth from the last match. In fact, the Sydney clubs, the women's clubs have grown. Manly now have a women's side, which is the first time ever. So that's pretty impressive. I think they had a lower level club team when they built up, so it's going well. And Shripali's opening up her fitness centre in January, which I'm very excited about.
Okay. What, in Sydney?
No, in Colombo.
Yeah.
She's actually a friend of ours, Sangha Sinratna, is involved, and he's helped build a two-story building for her, right on some council land in Colombo 7, and it's double-storied, yoga, fitness, some cricket nets, everything going on. It sounds really impressive.
Wow, sounds really exciting.
No, I'm very excited for her. And you know her very well too, and she thanks you for a lot of things that have gone on in her life. So obviously we've all contributed in some way. So let's have a look. We'll talk first about Australia versus England. Now, I have to say, after the first two tests, I'm very disappointed with the way England have played. That they just don't seem to have the heart in the match, even though Butler batted a very long period of time in the last innings of the second test there. There hasn't been a lot of fight that's gone on. There's been a lot of capitulation, especially in the batting lineup. That's been disappointing, but they've made changes, as you know. Have you seen the
changes? No surprise. But I've got to be honest with you, Norman. I think this has been coming for a while. You know, if you look at England's run scorers over the last 2 years, if you took Joe Root's scores out of it, it wouldn't make for very good reading. And since Strauss and Alistair Cook's partnership, I think we've had over 20 different partnerships at the top of the order. That doesn't send a very good message with regards to Test cricket players in this country at the moment.
True. Milan has stood up, though. He's played pretty reasonably the first two tests.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, David is a good player, and his record overseas for England has been consistently good. There obviously was, I think, the then chairman of selectors, Ed Smith, at one stage when they didn't pick him for the home series, mentioned that. But yeah, he is a player who can bat long, and I don't think there are too many that can say that in the UK at the moment. There's a lot of emphasis on white ball cricket and T20 cricket, and I think it's starting to show that it's having a negative impact. We as a country like England, we should be able to produce players for all formats, and there's loads of different reasons for that. The domestic structure is one. The messages that are sent down from the ECB management and county chairman from a point of view of what their priorities are, and it's driven by finance. It's not always driven, for cricket, and that's the sad thing at the moment is England's Test side is suffering because of that, and it needs to change.
Yeah, it certainly does. Look, they've brought in Zach Crawley. Now he's got a pretty good record in Australia. He played, of course, for the Sydney Cricket Club, the Balmain Cricket Club, for a season, and he certainly will probably adapt well to the conditions. He hasn't been in great form, but I applaud that selection. I think that was a good selection.
Okay, what's your thinking behind that?
About why he should be in the side?
Yeah,
just his technique is suited to Australian conditions. He's had experience here and done well here. Maybe not necessarily at Test level, but in the general sense of it. Now, Rory Burns has failed one too many times, I'm afraid, and probably they needed to change that opening partnership. Even though Rory Burns has done not badly in part in England in the previous series. Hamid hasn't quite cracked it either at this point, but I just think technique-wise, I think they're going to be suited to the Australian conditions more. not unlike Milan, the way he's come in and adapted pretty well. I mean, he was, an inclusion that, some people had doubted, but I certainly thought he was good. So I think Crawley, I'm not sure whether he's an opener, but he's not normally an opener, is he?
Well, he's batted anywhere in the top 3 in his career. So, he can drop in there. It's going to be tough. He's obviously got selected in the squad as a reserve batter. But he's had a tough 12 months in Test cricket. Since his double 100 against Pakistan, I think he's averaging about 11, which, against any team is tough to go in. But against the Australian in the Ashes, 2-0 down, he's going to get reminded about what his Test career is currently. Knowing Zach as I do, he's a pretty tough cookie. But that's always going to be at the back of his mind is, am I good enough? And all those types of questions. But if there's one environment you'd like him to play in, it would be Australia. You're correct. He's generally a back foot player. He can pull and cut really, really well. So if I was the Australian attack, I'd be looking to bowl it pretty full at him pretty regularly. Because that probably is Achilles' heel at the moment.
Okay, so you're suggesting that he shouldn't have been selected? Is that what you're suggesting?
Look, I think he had to be selected because he's in the squad and he's the next best top 3. I'm surprised that they haven't. Well, if they were going to pick him, I'm surprised they didn't play him in the warm-up game, if I'm honest, in the Lions game. I think there's a couple of players that could have played in that to get used to conditions because he's going in cold. Other than netting, because of the weather at the start of the tour, he wouldn't have had much middle practice. I think he's had 1 knock in a practice game where he got 40 odd. And that's the same for all the batters that are coming in. So for me, I'm a great believer that you've got to go in with runs behind your belt because that's confidence. And I'd like to see a few more of our young players bang out lots of runs in the county championship. So you just think back to some of those great Aussie players. Mike Hussey is a name that jumps out at me. The amount of first-class runs he scored before he came into that Test side. And there's no surprise that he was able just to carry on doing his stuff. I think sometimes we can throw young batters in too early just because they're young. But, fingers crossed it goes well for him in the last couple of Test matches.
So that's the question that you basically brought to the fore there. The fact that the England Lions team or squad left, you would argue, just a bit too early, and they could have left them hang around a little bit of time and be available because there are a few players in that squad that probably would have went close to being picked had they been in Australia for long enough. Now, I know they weren't in the squad, but that has been known to change. Really, the squad's been picked, but the teams were picked for the first 2 tests. At least Australia did that. So they could have had additions to the squad. Are there players that play in the Lions that matches that were up to speed that could have been there in the top 3?
I really got to be honest, Norman. I don't think we are blessed with a lot of 5-day Test batsmen at the moment in this country.
Right.
The art of leaving a cricket ball is dying in this country. Everybody wants to go at the ball hard, and we hear the phrase, "Well, that's my game." I think Josh Butler has used that phrase a few times in the past, but we saw in the last Test match he has got the ability to rein his game in and bat some time. So for me, it's a little bit about attitude and application, rather than just the easy phrase of, well, that's the way I play. It's tended to be a phrase used by a lot of players these days rather than being accountable for their performances.
They could even open with Bairstow, couldn't they, really? They could even open with Bairstow.
Yeah, I think we went down that road, didn't we, in India? He batted 3 in Indian conditions and struggled. So, he's had his opportunities. I think Bairstow's probably vying for that number 5, 6 spot with Pope and Dan Lawrence. But they're choosing to go, obviously, with the younger guys at the moment. So I think at the end of this Ashes series, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a big review on 4- and 5-day cricket in this country. Now the 100's established. Next year, obviously, it's his second full year of running. I think that the mindset will shift to how are we going to maintain test status at the top level and produce players that can play in that format. And they might have to look at the contracting system. They definitely have to look at the domestic structure. And counties are going to have to bite the bullet a little bit and, maybe reduce the T20 blast or 50 over competitions to get that prioritisation in Championship cricket.
So the 4 changes that England have made, of course, one was Burns out and Crawley in, Bairstow in, also Pope out. You've also got Wood coming in for what looks like Broad, and Leach coming in for Wokes, effectively. So
yeah,
Wokes has been disappointing, and he's certainly his bowling. His batting's been okay, but his bowling's been very disappointing. Leach was probably one they would have liked to have selected for the second test after what the wicket was doing. Wood, well, I mean, they need someone with express pace. They probably needed him in Adelaide more than Melbourne, to be really honest. Broad, I don't think Broad Anderson bowled that badly, actually. Australia had some luck there. Labuschagne, Warner, and even Smith had a bit of luck with some of their innings. Although luck favours the brave is another thing altogether. That certainly has been the case. Look, I don't think England it's all over yet for England. I think they've got a lot of opportunities here to still resurrect this. I actually said England would do a lot better. They would have won in Adelaide, but they obviously didn't. So, do you think that Australia will run away with this now, or do you think that we could see an English comeback?
Well, I think if you wanted a test match this time, Melbourne would be the one, because I think it's the only test ground in the world where Jimmy Anderson averages under 25 with the ball, and Jimmy's playing. So, from a bowling point of view, it well. And I think all the time England have still got a chance to stay in the series. You're going to have that motivation and playing for pride, as it were. So, a couple of them coming in want to show people that they should have been selected in the first place. So for me, England have got everything to play for. It's got to be tough in this bubble environment. There's no doubt for all players at the moment. And I'm sure the longer it goes on without any success, then England might become quite an easy target to turn over. So I think this is an important test match for England. If they can, at least get a draw out of it, at least they're changing momentum.
Yeah, look, I mean, with Melbourne, Sydney, and Hobart, the 3 last test match pitches, really suit England more than any other. Certainly, Brisbane and Perth are more Australia friendly generally, and Adelaide's probably in the middle there. But those last 3 they're playing on certainly favour English bowling, especially Melbourne, and I'd also say Hobart. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. I'd love to see the likes of a Crawley do well, and I think that he's a stroke maker sufficiently that he'll like the ball coming onto the bat. And everyone said that earlier on this year that he would be. They're waiting to see him play in Australia. Well, here's his opportunity, even though he hasn't had much game practice. Now, look at the Australian side for a moment. We've obviously had some bowling issues. Well, obviously Cummins had to opt out of the second match due to the COVID-19 scare. He's back in as captain. They've left Stark in the team. Hazelwood's not ready yet. But Jai Richardson's claiming to have soreness, which is an intriguing term, because many people say, well, if you wouldn't miss playing for Australia based on soreness. Lily or Thompson would have done that. So intriguing. But they've brought in Scott Boland, who's a pretty admirable bowler, but a bit of a shock considering Michael Neese has done very well in the previous match with Richardson. Why would you bring another bowler over the top again? That's an interesting selection from Australia, I would argue. Do you know much about Scott Boland?
Yeah, and I briefly had Cummins in this morning, where he was saying that Scott's ability to bowl a lot of overs. You know, he's obviously a good workhorse, but also
you're cutting in and out. We've lost, at least I can't. Keep talking.
you not hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay, no problem. So the interview that I saw this morning with Pat Cummins kind of emphasised that obviously he's worked. He's good at bowling a lot of overs, and they see that that's a requirement at Melbourne. The conditions are going to be favourable. He doesn't swing the ball much, but he has the ability to hit a length and seam it around. So I think they've probably just looked at an opportunity to rest some bowlers, the injuries of Hazelwood, to rest Stark with a view to maybe bringing them back.
Although Stark's playing.
So probably
I missed a few things there.
Allow them to do that.
Okay, you're cutting in and out a bit there still. We've just lost him. Okay, look, some good points brought forward, but I don't understand Scott Boland replacing Michael Neese, because Michael Neese did an admirable job, and he's a workhorse too. If Jai Richards has got a soreness, well, fair enough. Yeah, but anyway, it's an interesting selection. I know some people are saying in the commentary that Boland is an MCG, especially may well be. Anyone watching India versus, is it? No, it's not India. It's, you mean West Indies versus Pakistan? Is that what you're talking about? Himanshu Chowdhury? Is that the game you're talking about? Without putting flags, I can see put Pakistan up there. The reality is that we're going to talk more about India as well later in the broadcast. India have got quite an interesting combination of players. Obviously, they've got some that are unavailable. That is, probably the main player is, of course, Rohit Sharma, who's unavailable to play. I'm just want to see if there's anyone else. What we've got here. Yeah, we've got Naresh coming on as well. Naresh wants to join. I'll just put him on. Hang on a sec. There we go. Okay, so yeah, okay, under 19s, of course, the other thing. So, well, let's before we talk about that game. Of course, that's an important game. I agree, but we're talking here on the eve of the Boxing Day Test match between Australia versus England. That was behind me there, as well as the next match, which is of equal importance, of course, India versus South Africa. And I'm not that impressed with some of the discussion about South Africa. It's very confusing. But the Indian probable side for that game tomorrow, which will start later in the day, it'll start about 1:30 p.m. Indian time and some 7 p.m. Australian time. The probable Indian team will still be KL Rahul opening the batting. Rohit Sharma's not there. Agarwal is the straight lend to go in that position. Pujar may still hold his place with Kohli at 4. They're saying Ajinkya Rahane, Shreyas Iyer, Hanuma Vihari. It has to be Shreyas Iyer or Vihari. It can't be Rahane, in my opinion. Otherwise, he'd be vice captain. Rishabh Pant comes back in. Ashwin. Now, will they bring in Shardul Thakur, Shami Bumrah, and Siraj ahead of Ishant Sharma? I do think Rahane and Ishant Sharma will not be the first one selected, and that especially because Rahane is not vice captain. Rohit Sharma was made vice captain, and KL Rahul's replaced him. So I'd be very surprised if Rahane gets down in the first match. So we'll go back to India. Will be Rahul, probably with Agarwal. Pujar still holds his position, although not with a great deal of certainty. Kohli, I then would put Shreyas Iyer, Punt, Ashwin, Thakur, Shami, Bumrah, and I would have Siraj ahead of Ishant Sharma. That would be my probable Indian side. You would have some doubt about, but they hinted 5 bowlers at Rahul. So would they be Siraj, Bumrah, Shami, Thakur, and Ashwin? That makes Jadeja still, I believe, out. He is, in fact, he's not on the tour, is he? So yeah, there's and you're saying that there's 4 runs with 1 ball to go in the India versus Pakistan in 19 match. That's certainly exciting. Played on Christmas Day as well, which is all the more interesting. Let's have a look here. So the Indian probable side is that side I've just mentioned there. I'd have to wonder about the South African side. That side bewilders me. Shekhar Maan. So what are England's chances of winning the pit? England's chances are, you can't say that they're good, they're average, but they've got some new players in there as a new blood for this particular match. Let's hope that gets them in some sort of position. And in terms of the pitch, well, Melbourne pitch is generally slow and low in this condition. It'll suit bowling more, and it may suit the batting if the weather dries up. Now let's look at the South African side for a moment. The interesting is, of course, Dean Elgar is there. And the South African probable team, I think I mentioned it earlier, was Elgar with Markram, Keegan Peterson, I don't know much about him, Van der Noosen, Temba Bavuma, Quinton de Kock, Juan Mulder, Maharaj, Rabada, Nagidi, and Duane Oliver. Of course, we have the bowler of some note who was out. I've just forgotten his name. What was the fellow's name again? The guy that Bob particularly well in the. I've forgotten his name. Who can tell me the name of the South African bowler who played very well in the IPL? Accompanied Rabada there. I think it was at the Delhi Capitals. Any weather update from Melbourne for the next 5 days? It'll be overcast and raining, as far as I've heard. First test between India and South Africa will be draw as heavy rain as forecast for 3 days. Well, taking that, we can't discuss in terms of being a draw based on weather. We know weather can never be predictable. So Nagidi's on the side, but the other bowler, I've forgotten his name, who's out of the South African side. Who can remember the bowler that's out? I've forgotten his name. Naresh.
Norman, good
Merry
evening.
Christmas. I'm not sure whether you
Merry
celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, just a little bit of small get-together last night first, and then this afternoon at home. Yeah. Merry Christmas to you, your family, and all your listeners and viewers, Norman.
Thank you very much, Naresh. It's great to have you here. We had Simon Willis on earlier, but his link broke, so he unfortunately now. I was just talking a bit about both matches tomorrow. Boxing Day is full of. There was apparently a match between India and Pakistan in 19. The Pakistan just won last ball. I haven't been following that, but anyway, tomorrow's matches: Australia versus England, of course, being the third test. Everybody's quite doom and gloom about England. I think they've still got enough time to resurrect their test series somewhat. If they win the next test match, they're right back in it. We'll see what happens there. I think they've got some good changes. Zach Crawley's in there, Bairstow's back in, Mark Wood and even Leach, considering the conditions, are pretty good selections. We'll see how good they go. But tomorrow's match, India versus South Africa. What's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts going? Who was the bowler that's injured for South Africa? Not Nagidi, not Rabada. Who was the other bowler? Norjay. That's it, Norjay.
Norjay. Yeah.
He's obviously not playing. He's injured. That bit of a blow. What do you think?
But yeah, they have a very good pace attack, and at home they will be always very effective. I think India's main concern or opportunity would be number 5. Who plays at number 5? Rahane not being the vice captain is a hint that he is in or out. It's not that he is for sure in.
Look, let's be honest. How could Rahane be in if Rohit Sharma's made vice captain, he's out, and Rahul got picked as vice captain? It's sending a pretty big message, isn't it?
Yeah. But then number 5, Shreyas Iyer, who did well at home against New Zealand, I feel he should right away be brought in, though he has limitations against bouncy pace attack on a bouncy track, but then he needs to be tested. Vihari has been there for long. He went with India. Hey, he missed out at home against New Zealand. Same thing happened in the English summer. He was sent in for county, but he didn't get a chance in the playing 11. He could be another one to be looked at number 5. And other most interesting thing, will India go with 5 bowling attack, which I think Rahul Dravid has already given a hint he would like to. This means India would like to see Ashwin definitely plays now with Jadeja not there, and maybe Shardul Thakur because he can add a little bit with the bat. So Pant at 6. So it's number 5. That's what it is, because Mayank and KL definitely opening in the absence of Gill and Rohit Sharma.
Yeah, and it's frustrating for me for Agarwal that he seems to be in replacing someone else when he probably deserves to be in there anyway. Really.
Yeah, and Norman, if you see what's happening with England now in Australia, and exactly a year back what happened with India, Mayank and Prithvi Shaw struggled in the first 2 tests as openers, and you see that happening with Hamid and Burns. But India had a good replacement in Rohit Sharma and Gill in the next 2 test matches, and they got some good starts for India. But England, they're making a change, but are they confident Crawley will bring that? Lawrence or Crawley? Who are they changing?
Crawley.
Yeah. Will that change their fortunes? Whereas India had a good change in Gill and Rohit Sharma, and then what happened in both Sydney draw and the Gaba win. Mayank Agarwal, at least he's going into this test match confident that he is the only opener for sure, with KL coming back. In England, unfortunately, he got injured, but there was option of Rohit Sharma there. Gill also got injured, and then India decided to open with KL. So Mayank is sure to start off. That much he is confident, and with that 100 behind him in Mumbai, definitely he's expected to do well starting tomorrow. But then it seems Rohit Sharma is now going to clear the fitness and may fly down to South Africa. Maybe for second or third test, he may be available.
Yeah, it's very crisp, very. How can I put this? It's very interesting, the whole situation. But look, in my opinion, India are very fortunate because they've got a lot of players that are in form to come in, such as Shreyas Iyer, such as Agarwal. They're there. Even Vihari's there as well. Rahane cannot seriously be selected for this match. Pujara is also.
But I think Pujara will continue at number 3, Norman. At least for the first test, we can see some changes happening. If Pujara doesn't succeed, will India look at, if Rohit goes back, to move Mayank at 3 or KL at 3? We don't know. But at this point of time, I think Pujara is secured at 3 for the first test at least.
I'm not down that Pujara will stay there, but Rahane is not going to play, in my opinion. Opinion, they will not have Rahane. It's going to be Agarwal with Rahul opening, Pujara first drop, Kohli second, and then Shreyas Iyer. And then you move into the likes of Pant, who is back. And then you'll have Ashwin. So they've got a pretty strong side there and there. And then Thakur, and then you've got the bowlers of Bumrah, Shami, and I think Siraj. Not Ishan Sharma.
I think Siraj should play ahead of Ishan. Siraj should play ahead of Ishan. Kishore Chaudhary has sent his 11. Very interesting. He's playing 4 bowlers with Rahane and Iyer both in. In that case, if 4 bowlers go in Ashwin, Shami, Bumrah, Siraj, then India can look at Iyer and Vihari, because Vihari can also bowl a bit, instead of Rahane. But Rahane cannot be first choice, number 5 to start.
No. So, okay. All right. Is that your side? Go through your 11 specifically.
My specific 11, KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal, Pujara, Virat, Shreyas, Pant at 6, Ashwin, and then I get in Shardul, Bumrah, Shami, and Siraj.
Yeah, I've got almost identical side of my thoughts.
Yeah.
Now, with South Africa for a moment, they seem to have, Dean Elgar's returned to be captain of the side, which I think's a huge positive because they missed him, I think, of late. He needs to be there for sure. He could well be an important inclusion. Aiden Markham's a test of the former, De Kock, Bavuma, and they've got a bunch of new blokes, which I haven't heard. I mean, Van der Dusen's there, but I don't know. He's got great raps, but I haven't seen too much of him doing well.
He's done well in white ball. At least what I have seen is white ball, not seen him playing test.
So that,
but
does that mean... Sorry,
Norman, 2017, I think last when India went there, 2017-18, they had Hashim Amla, they have ABD, they had Faf du Plessis. Compared to that, this is a weak batting attack. And that's where I feel the bowling definitely at home, irrespective of Nordje being there or no, they will do well. It's the batting which India can, look at getting an upper hand against them. And that's where it's very critical. And obviously, the eyes will be on India's 3, 4, 5, how they play this overseas tour.
Okay, it's 3 test matches, correct?
Yeah.
I'm expecting, they're saying there's a lot of rain. I'm not sure whether that's going to be a true indication, but do you think that India can win this series?
Yes. India can win this series. For that, they have to bat well. I think the bowling is well covered. It's just that how well they bat. That's been the concern. 2 concerns, obviously, as I said, the middle order and how they come back into a new day and play out the first session, because that's where they lose out on the advantage. So if these 2 areas are well taken care of, India has a very good chance in this series, purely because of the inexperienced batting lineup of South Africa.
Well, it comes down to a good start. And again, we talk about tosses. If India win the top, they should go straight into bat. They need to take the upper hand. Rabada and Ngidi are certainly good bowlers, but I think if you get through those, and look, Agarwal has no problems with pace, I believe, and nor does Rahul. I think they've got a pretty good start there, and Pujara generally likes the ball coming to the bat as well. So I think, there's one player that I think that needs to really start to show his wares, and that's Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli's been lean for quite a while now. We've accepted it. He's had all the interesting debacle, well, not debacle, but the goings on with the ODI and T20 selections and what have you. But now it's Test cricket time, and I want to see Virat Kohli score and score big. It's time.
Yeah, and I think Olive, their fast bowler, he would get a game for sure. I think what I've heard, he's tall, he's fast, so that's the other unknown bowler for India to play. Though last time when India toured, Dale Steyn played 1 test, they had Philander. So India knows that pace attack over there is going to be very high quality pace attack on those tracks. So as you say, they need to do well to start. The start is very important. How Lords, there's, as Himanshu says, there is some rain expected, or probably even if it is overcast, we have to take it the way we played in Melbourne, the Boxing Day test. I think the way India batted on an overcast day 2 and how India batted day 1 in Lords in overcast, they need to take something from there on how well they can play out time. That's very important, playing out time.
Oh, look, there's some really exciting aspects to this series. It's a pity Rohit Sharma's not there, because I think he would have been suited to the conditions. He really seems to have come of age as an opening batter, and especially on conditions like Australia. So, and Gill obviously is another, but they've got so much depth now. Even without Gill and Rohit Sharma there, they've still got, the likes of obviously Agarwal and Rahul, and then they've got batsmen like Shreyas Iyer and players of that capable. Even Vihari can't get a berth in this team. It's quite impressive.
And they had an option of keeping back Prithvi Shaw from India A. They haven't done. They have kept back Priyank Panchal. Now Priyank Panchal, He's about 30, little above 30, but he's scored a lot of runs in domestic circuit. He comes from Gujarat, I think, and he's scored a lot of. He's got a triple hundred also in domestic, so he's another option
Who was that? Sorry,
if we can. Priyank Panchal. Yeah, so he's reserve batsman named in place of Rohit Sharma.
so Iswaran, I thought he was up there as well. What's happened to him? He's been floating around there for a while.
Yeah, Ishwaran, right? You're talking about Ishwaran? Yeah, he scored 100 also on this India A tour. That's surprising. Even he's left out of here, though he was there part of the squad to England. So yeah, that's a bit disappointing. Why he didn't get a replacement name in place of Rohit Sharma? But
Yeah,
probably India fields, they have the areas covered, and you know.
Yeah, okay, but what the only thing that concerns me at the Indian team is a stability of the batting order.
Yeah.
Now they seem to have that, but due to injuries and what have you, they've had a few changes. But it seems to me the stability is still there. But Rahane, if he's no longer vice captain, okay,
he's not
even the second, the 2IC for vice captain, then that's sending a message that he's unlikely to play. I don't even know, Naresh, why he's in the squad.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. If they've taken him out of the vice captaincy altogether, okay, and therefore he's not playing, why wouldn't you blood someone else now? If he was on the, I mean, they claimed he was being rested for that last Test match recently. that was a crock. He was dropped.
Yeah, that's there. But it's like, okay, he didn't play in the playing 11. That's it. Whatever reasons given, but yeah, like Jadeja will also be missed. Same thing happened with Jadeja. He didn't play the last one, but now he's ruled out for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
So but he'll be fit in time for the IPL for sure. So,
but Shardul Thakur is not a bad replacement. Look at the way he's played. He's a great. He's bat and ball. He's very, very capable, and he'll revel in the South African conditions. I think he will enjoy. He likes the ball coming onto the bat as well. So now I think
he did well in Australia. We know in Gaba he did well. He did well in England. So I think he can be one person to be looked at always in overseas, because even his bowling, those conditions, he will do well. And you cannot have an apples to apples replacement of Hardik Pandya, but it's time we move ahead. And if Shardul is the next one in, we need to ensure he plays in the 11, even if it is number 7 or 8.
Absolutely. Look, this is going to sound a little bit harsh, but I think India deserve to really put a stamp on the series and win it by thrashing South Africa.
Yeah.
This is what India have to do. It's not just about winning this series. It's about really stamping their authority, because they are mathematically streets ahead of South Africa.
Yeah. And for that, they'll have to bat well. That's all. That's going to be the key. And as you said, I think it's not only 3, 4, 5, but I think Virat will be under a lot of under scrutiny overall. So Virat has to get the runs and just have his critics quiet, because we need to look at one thing. This is still an ICC championship, this entire cycle. So 2023 is what he should eye, the finals, or to lift the trophy. That should be his focus in the championship.
Well, England have taken a smacking, not just for the fact they've lost the first 2 tests, but they've lost so many points from being slow over rates. They've been smashed with points. England are not going to get up there. I mean, India is expected to be, but I think Australia's bouncing.
Yeah, if Australia gets a 5-0, then I think they would be there, up there. So it could be India, Pakistan, Australia fighting for the 2 spots. So
interesting.
Pakistan, yeah, and England, I think, lost the plot in the selection of the first test, most important at Gaba. England has been playing a lot of Test cricket throughout the year. Yes, they won only in Sri Lanka. They lost at home in New Zealand. They are behind at home against India. But they were coming with a lot of Test cricket. Australia, the last was at Gaba, where they got beaten by India. So, and this started with Gaba, this series. The beginning of the season. England should have played either one of them, Anderson or Broad, or both of them in the first test. They lost out there. And then the wrong decision of bowling first after winning the toss at Gaba. I think they lost the plot there. And then losing a wicket of the first ball of the start of the Ashes, and then struggling the entire test. Second match again, it's Wood should have played because of the pace. Otherwise, the bowling attack looks very, very similar. There's no variety in the bowling attack.
But there's another thing that I need to make very clear. Australia are not that good. Australia are not at their peak at all. I mean, Labuschagne's consistent, yes, but they've been all over the shop. Harris should have been dropped. He hasn't scored a century in his first 12, 13, 14 tests.
Yeah.
He should have been dropped. He's been hidden by this victory. Their bowling attack, look, Cummins was pretty admirable, but overall, Stark didn't do too badly, yes, but overall, they've had the England team wilt and fall apart rather than Australia bowling well. I'm not convinced Australia's side's been that good, if I'm being honest.
But yeah, Norman, we have spoken this earlier. Usman Khwaja should have been in the squad against India itself. That's the mistake they made. They forced Warner to continue not being 100% fit. Plus, he was not in form. But definitely winning a World Cup of any format and then coming into the Ashes has to lift the entire side. And that is what has happened to Australia. They won the World Cup. Warner won the man of the tournament. And, you see the entire team, even the body language is very different. And pink ball is about Mitchell Stark. He's the leading bowler in pink ball test in wickets. And, others are far away from him. Very, very difficult to beat Australia in Adelaide in a pink ball test. So, and my point is, what did England learn from India when India toured last? I don't think they haven't. They haven't learned much.
But you would argue they're in the same position. You could say, okay, India were 1-0 down, England are 2-0 down with 3 tests left. But there's no reason why they can't turn this around. They really can if they get their act together. Because our bowling lineup, even though we brought Richardson and Nisa in, I'm not convinced about our bowling lineup. I really am not. I mean, Hazelwood's out injured. Stark's not 100% either. Pat Cummins, well, he's captain now, which I don't believe is the right decision. And if you looked at that second test match, I was watching it right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah.
Warner's directing traffic at first slip. Smith was there as well, but Warner was right back into a captaincy role, which he shouldn't have been. And I don't know, it's a bit frustrating to see that happen. Anyway, I think England has still an opportunity there, although it's a closing window. If they do well at Melbourne and they get up one test match, they're 2-1 with 2 to go. And 2 pitches, Sydney and Hobart, which are not going to suit Australia as much as people would like it to. So there's still a window there. There's still a window for England to hope for. It's going to be interesting.
And I think Hobart is again a pink ball test.
Yeah, day-night.
Yeah.
But it's Hobart. The conditions will be very different.
Yeah.
It'll be it could easily be a blustery, cool day, and that could well suit an England bowler. Be interesting.
Yeah, but I think what England is missing is a quality spinner. Melbourne and again in Sydney, the spin would come in. I think Nathan Lyon will have a big role again, and they need to get the variety in the pace attack. I think they have Willie as a left armer, but I don't think they would play Willie. They have to bat well. Yeah, they should have played best actually in the first test, and that's what they didn't make an impact in the first test getting into Gaba, and that's where Australia already coming into with confidence. The confidence went further high, but even the batting, Butler, I don't know, number 6, At Lords also, he was expected to save the test. He couldn't. Here, the last one at Adelaide, he couldn't save the test. Does he have the temperament to play long innings in test matches?
Yeah. Go back to South Africa a minute. I mean, the key to South Africans' success in this series will be their openers, Dean Elgar and Markram. If they can get a good start, they could set the tone for their team. And I think Kaushal Kumars has asked about that. Aid Markram and Elgar at home are pretty damn good. Elgar in particular is very good at home. That could be the one strength they've got, because if they lose those wickets early, they could collapse. They haven't got that depth. I mean, Quinton de Kock can bat, yes, but he hasn't been consistent of late. And Bavuma hasn't been consistent either. So they've got a big hole. If they get through those openers, a big hole in that batting lineup that South Africa have to be wary of. And India have to exploit this, and they have to win and win well. India have to have this ruthlessness about them, because they are streets ahead of South Africa on paper, regardless of Centurion or not. They are streets ahead, and they need to play that way. Dominate and really crunch South Africa.
They need to dominate. And speaking about Markram, we have seen this year he's played a lot of white ball. He was even picked up in the IPL second leg auction. But he's got a good temperament to play long innings. He's played some good innings at home. But this entire year has even changed his game because he had to adapt to white ball. What impact that would have again on his Test cricket performance, we'll get to know. But yeah, he and Elgar are the most experienced in this batting lineup. Quinton de Kock, even he comes with a very dominating white ball performance. So we'll have to see how he adapts. But yes, as I said, what they had the last tour of India, that quality of batting lineup is not there, with no ABD, Hashim Amla and Faf du Plessis.
Again, it comes down to Kohli is going to be ever present. He's captaining. He's got KL Rahul with him, which you would argue he's a good forceful player. I think they really need to take that to another level and make this a very dominant display. They need to go win with. I know the Centurions, the so-called fortress. I've subscribed to that not being the case at all, because I actually don't think that there's any issue there whatsoever. I don't think that if this fortress rubbish is all about the mental state of the players, and in particular the team that's playing away needs to get to that fall out of their mind. I actually think that bat first, get lots of runs, and then throw pressure against the South Africans in that first innings.
Yeah, and Norman, Mayank Agarwal and KL Rahul have opened a lot together in domestic cricket. We have seen them doing that in IPL. I think KL's presence will help Mayank as a partner, in absence of Rohit. So that would be interesting on how Mayank we need Mayank to succeed now, because he's after his debut in 2018, that Melbourne 80 or 90 he scored. After that, overseas we haven't seen him get runs. So that's going to be the key.
Geez, he batted well against New Zealand, didn't he? And Shreyas Iyer, they both batted very, very well. They deserve their spots. We've got to give them a go, because we've got to look beyond the Pujara Rahane era now. We've got to look beyond that.
And I read someone's comment on Ruturaj. I think Ruturaj Gaikwad is a good future number 3. Probably when Pujara calls it, Ruturaj could really fit in very well at that. He plays long innings. Recently in Vijay Hazare 50-over tournament, he's got 500s back to back. Ruturaj should be looked at, a young guy coming into the Test squad, but at a number 3, because we have decent number of openers to play around with. But that number 3 would be very critical once Pujara calls it a day. Number 5, now we have options. Bihari is still around. Shreyas has come in. He has to, Shreyas has to build the confidence of playing short pitch delivery. But I think Ruturaj will fit in well at number 3.
What about Padikkal? Is he short form only, or is he long form? Is there another player that's...
Padikkal, he didn't do much in this 50-over domestic tournament. Vijay Hazare is still going on. I think the final is it was today or probably tomorrow. But yeah, he hasn't done much in the 50 over format also. So Padikkal, I think, is little far even to be looked at from the test perspective. But what we have seen from these youngsters, I think Ruturaj, you can say, is ready. He's up there. We may just see him in the one-day squad, because one-day squad is still not announced for South Africa.
So that's why I'll go back to him for a moment. I mean, the guy keeps on getting selected, there or thereabouts, but then it's pushed out now by this Pakal guy. To me, what's he done wrong?
You're talking about Ishwaran?
Yes.
I really wouldn't know why he's not been picked here when he was also there with India A, or is it that Priyank Panchal has been looked at, who has done better than him? I think both of them got runs for India A. Even Vihari's got a couple of 50s, but I think it's just given a chance to Panchal. Panchal has what, but I doubt whether he will get a game. But he's 30 plus. He's got a lot of runs. He should have been looked at. He should have been given a look in earlier, probably ahead of Ishwaran for the England tour. But yeah, that's unknown why Ishwaran was not picked for this replacement. Yeah.
It must be so hard to be a selector. Let's be honest. I mean, it really must be, because of the way in which this whole the numerous players, it becomes a jumbled mess, because you get all these players playing well. You don't know who to leave in or leave out. But the bottom line is they've got to have consistency. Now that they've, I guess, somewhat stubbornly looking away from Pujara Rahane for the future, Nishant Sharma, now they've got to start to settle down again. Find some young blokes, but blood them and give them a bit of a long berth. They have to give Shreyas Iyer and Agarwal a good long berth now. They have to. They have to continue to put them.
Yeah, too. Gill will come back, unfortunately, again in injury. It happened ahead of England tour. It's happened now. Prithvi Shaw is in and around. So there is loads of competition. I see a comment on Shah Rukh Khan. He's doing well. He's done well in the 20 over domestic. He's done well in this 50 over. But whether he will get picked for the India squad right away, don't know. But he will be a very hot, in the auctions. Shah Rukh Khan will be very hot in the auctions for sure.
I mean, I don't want to take away from the IPL, but I hope it settles down this year and it's done in that one period when they're dragging out throughout the whole year. Because last year it just seemed to be all IPL. We had literally 2 IPLs in the one season, broke up into 2 halves.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate, at this point of time, Norman, again, things in India are getting a little bad. We have restrictions coming back in few parts of the country, time restrictions. Yeah. So it could be more of precaution, because it's better to learn lessons from what happened last year. It went out of hand. We may not see that kind of a spike, but will it be good enough to host a big event like IPL in India again? That needs to be looked at. And you can't play cricket during May, June in the UAE. That's not the time cricket is played there. It's just much more hot than what it is in September. So that's the problem.
But is it fair to say that okay, what's the percentage rate of double vaxxed people and booster shots? What's happened there?
So there is no approval of booster shot in India yet. Double vaxxed, what I read yesterday, was about 57% in India. The one who are qualified to do 57%, that is 18 years plus. We haven't got it for kids yet. And booster is not yet approved. It's still under discussion whether we need to go for it or not.
Yeah. Look, I know India's got a massive population. I get that. But really, you need to get that percentage up. You really need to spend more time on getting that percentage up as a country.
Yeah, that's what been pushed at, because I think there are many who have missed the second dose deadline, and probably that's the reason our government is a bit caught up in the approval of booster, because if your second dose percentage is low, how can you get a booster in? And other thing, there have been some measures taken on that. A lot of companies are now enforcing it. Those without double dose, there are some conditions of work now coming in at workplace. So those things we hear, I read it in the media, but yeah, that percentage has to move up. The second dose, our first percentage dose is quite good, first dose percentage, but second dose is where we are behind.
Well, that doesn't. I mean, I don't get why. I mean, I'm not you. I'm not in your country, but why would you get one dose, not the second? Do they think one dose is enough? Is that what's going on?
No, other thing is, Norman, we predominantly had two vaccines, and one had a gap of 84 days, and then the second one had a gap of 28 days, and the second one, and that is where you see the difference coming in.
Right.
It's not that both are identical between the two doses, and we revised it actually. We kept revising it 3 times, the gap between the first and the second.
Minister, people are asking questions. Who's the Indian Test vice captain? Just to make it clear, KL Rahul is there now. Rohit Sharma is not for this Test series. So it's KL Rahul who's the vice captain, and he's being a bit of the. We've also had discussion about where was Norjay. Norjay is injured. So is Gill.
Yeah.
Rohit Sharma's having a period. Is he injured too? I believe he's injured, isn't he? So they're the reasons for those players not playing. There was claims that Rahane was injured. Well, he's back, but he won't be in the side. I'd be quite shocked if they're going to play Rahane. Interesting series. It's going to be exciting. So tomorrow I'll be on again around about 12:30 noon or 12:30 IST.
I saw your timing. Yeah, I think you're starting first in the morning before the.
Well, now I may have a smaller session tomorrow, but I've had this session now, which may be replacing tomorrow morning session. Because only Australians are up at that time in the morning watching the series. It's pretty early. Because I mean, for God's sake, if it's a 10 o'clock start, that means that it's something like 4:30 in the morning in India. I can't imagine it'll be very late at night in England. So yeah, England audiences have died off a bit, I'm afraid. They can't even come out here. They've got their Barmy Army here are just Australian versions. They haven't got the support that they deserve to have. It's quite sad in a lot of ways, to be honest.
Yeah, many couldn't travel also, right? There are travel restrictions still there, yeah. And Tarun, to answer your question, it has to be Ashwin. You have to pick up Ashwin ahead of Akshar Patel. He's definite to start in the 11, Ashwin, if unless there is an injury worry. But otherwise, Ashwin starts off.
How could you leave Ashwin out of this side at all? Because look, I now look back at the series in England where Ashwin didn't play a Test match. Okay, India did pretty well, but I still look back and think they should have had Ashwin in the side. Anyway.
Yeah, it's just it's debatable on conditions versus yes, but as you say, the side that played the final unfortunately was criticized because they lost. Ashwin and Jadeja both played, and probably that's the criticism India reacted to, that two spinners is too much on in England conditions. You see what's happening in New Zealand. Ajaz Patel is not even picked in the squad purely because of conditions. New Zealand feels they don't need a spinner to bowl out Bangladesh. So.
that is hilarious. That is hilarious. A man that's got 14 wickets in that last Test match. Jeez.
Mumbai Indians may just pick him up for IPL. He's from Mumbai.
If the two new franchises will, I'm sure. Otherwise, they'll pick him up.
Yeah.
What's the word on Warner? He's not playing for Sunrise Hyderabad next year. Trevor Bales is not coach, nor is Laxman as well. Quite a few changes there.
Yeah, and Lakshman now has taken up the full-time NCA role, replacing Rahul Dravid. So I don't know what impact that would have on his IPL contract. I don't think he would have a new contract. And I think the two new franchisees have time till the end of this month to name their 4 players, which they would pick from the pool, 3 or 4 players. But I think Ahmedabad has already picked and named their support staff. I think so. I'm still not much following it at this point of time till there are some official news coming in. But they have time till end of the month to pick up the 3 from the pool, and then they go in for an auction. So all the 10 teams are at an equal level. So I think Warner may be picked up before the auction by one of the two new teams.
Okay. Well, that's still that auction's there in February, aren't they? It's a bit of time away,
Second week.
And the games are April, May, correct?
Yeah, April. They would like to start end of April, go up to June.
Right.
Nearly 2 months. Yeah. I agree with Sunny. Norman, your comment on what Sunny is saying, is India now the new Ashes with Australia? Because do you feel India Australia is much more exciting than what's happening with the Ashes, at least in Australia? Because
no doubt. I mean, the term Ashes, just let's not use the word Ashes, refers to a very specific situation, but the Border Gavaskar Trophy is going to become, if it is now, the leading interest, a great deal of interest. This Test series has been very, very frustrating. Australia's met no resistance. The interest is certainly dropping off. People are not talking about it. Even the English themselves are dropping off because they can't physically get into it. They're not coming here at all. It's been incredible. James Dean, what an amazing sticker. Thank you for your $50 super sticker. Wow, that's just outrageous. That's just humongous. I appreciate the support. It's been great to have me back on. I wasn't going to have a Christmas Day show because I thought it was appropriate not to, but Simon Willis was demanding to get on here, and I wanted to talk to him as well. And you're here, which is great. And I want you to be, if you got time, the India versus South Africa series is coming up, and I've got a few things there. So really appreciate your time. Always, it's great having it. And your show, plug your show. Your show. Very stylish. I like the way you put your podcast together. Tell us about that now.
Yeah, so it's actually a weekly episode podcast on what's happening in cricket. We are covering all these series. It's more in Hindi in India. It's called Made in 100 with NNN. We are two friends, myself Naresh and my co-host Nitish. That's why it says N and N. So it's Made in 100 with NNN. It's a weekly podcast. It's available on most of the platforms. Spotify is one which is globally known. And in India, you have Jio Savan and Ghana, of those who are following those platforms. So that's where we are available. We are now 6 months old. We started when the World Test final was there. That's when we started. We are about 26 episodes old now.
Merry Christmas to James Dean. He sent me a double posting there of stickers. Great to do. Thank you. Sunny Singh, Merry Christmas. Quick talk from Himanshu Chowdhury is always there. Yes, I agree. The Border Gavaskar Trophy should be 5 tests. We should be playing India in 5 tests. It'd make it very interesting, and I think it's deserving of that. That last year, that series goes down as one of the most impacting series for a long time in Australia. It was really top class, the fight that occurred. And England need to just get that one thing going, is a bit more fight. They had a bit of fight there from Butler in the last innings, but he was alone in a way.
And I think, Norman, there's a documentary which is to be released. I think it will be released beginning of next year on that series, the India-Australia last series, where all the experts have their comments. We are getting the teasers in between the cricket matches. It looks extremely interesting. And it's probably named as the best ever comeback by an Indian team. Underdogs, something like this. They've given a title to it. Yeah.
We've also got
underdogs, down under, something like this.
We've got something called a Warnie thing coming out in about a week's time. I'll tell you about that. There's a special on Shane Warne, which is intriguing. I'll tell you, to say the least. I'm also going to some very substantial breakfasts between the Sydney Tests. Steve Waugh's a guest with a number of others. They're very exciting to be a part of. And the other, of course, is Capital Devs. Was it called 60? What's it called? Is it 83?
83, the movie. Yeah, it's got very good reviews. It's already got released this week here in India. I have yet to watch it, but it's got very, very good reviews. It's the 1983.
I've got a good friend of mine who was the makeup artist for that movie. Okay. Anika Muktas, good friend. I should say hello to her. Great friend. I often meet up with her in Mumbai, and she was the makeup artist for that. She was very excited. meeting all the cricketers like Capital 11 and like. It was great. It was a great series for her to be part. So I'll keep getting asked about the South African vice captain of South Africa. Well, that's a good question. I know that Dean Elgar is the captain. I'm only assuming that Bavuma's reverted back to being vice.
Yeah, I feel it is Bavuma. I'm not sure.
Well, de Kock sort of walked away. Let me have a look.
Yeah. Or is it Quinton de Kock for test matches?
Well, it doesn't say here. It just says Captain Elgar. But I would say Bavuma would probably be vice captain, I would say, without much doubt.
Yeah.
Cameron Green's next to Shane Watson. Well, Cameron Green's on the way to being that way. His batting has been a bit weak of late, but he's capable.
Yeah, batting is a concern, yeah.
But
It's a long way. He's still a long way away, yeah.
It's been excellent to watch. All right, Naresh, if you're happy with that, that's been fantastic. I really appreciate your involvement. And James Dean is becoming a new member. He's doing all sorts of things here. Good to see James Dean. But James Dean was an actor who died from a car accident or something back in the 60s, 70s. Anyway, it's good to have him back. I'm wondering if he's in heaven or is he on earth? I'm not sure. All right, Naresh, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
So
have a good weekend.
We'll talk to you. You're invited, as always, to join me at any stage, Naresh. And your program, I'm going to make sure that people attach the link again. Continue to attach your link to these videos. All right.
I'll do that. Yeah.
All right, Naresh.
I'll do that. Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Bye, Norman. Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Isn't it great to have these people on? Simon Willis, the high performance coach for both Sri Lanka and in England. He's well tuned, he's well versed on players. He was a bit sceptical of Zach Crawley's inclusion, but wait and see how he goes. There's a lot to be garnered from that. Naresh is very, very astute with his knowledge. We've got a whole host of other blokes that are going to come on as well. Hopefully, some more England cricketers will come on too. We've got our favourites there, Adam Hollyoake and Monty Panesar, and even Alan Mullally are there. We'll get them all back on very shortly. So yes, tomorrow's matches, Australia versus England. Most people are predicting Australia win. I think that we need to give England a chance to get their act together with Zach Crawley best on the batting line. That'll bolster him, I believe, over Pope and Burns. And then on top of that, you've got Wood who can fire. Pity about Broad, but then Leach had to come in and he was replacing blokes. So there's some important changes. The Australian side, yet again, another new bowler. Scott Boland's come in. He's played the short form but not the long form. Interesting to see how he goes. Nisa, was he injured? I don't know. Richardson's got soreness. Interesting about that as well. And of course, Hayes still rested. Stark probably needs a rest at some stage. And Cummins is back after having missed the test due to a COVID-19 scare. So there's been a bit of inconsistency in the bowling in terms of availability. We'll wait and see how they go. So as batting lineup, Harris has also got a big question mark over his name. We'll see how he goes. Some very interesting selections there. Border Gavaskar Trophy should be 5 tests. A common conversation there about that. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. So Merry Christmas, everybody. It's been a great year. We've had some 940 odd videos that I've released throughout the year, which is roughly 2.5 a day or 5 over 2 days. It's been a great journey that I've been on. Done well over 300 live, well over 600 that have been recorded. I thank you again. Please watch and please view, like, and share the posts. We're into now the Boxing Day here in Australia, not yet in India and in England, but time-wise we've done very, very well. So we can look to a great series tomorrow. I've got some previews of the day happening on tomorrow, so wait and see how we go there. So don't forget to join Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnek. View, like, and share the posts. At Norman Koch is my Instagram and my Twitter. I'm not heavy on Twitter, but I'm there. And Norman Kochnek, of course, for both LinkedIn and the Facebook page. So don't forget to subscribe to Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnek. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And on top of that, hit the notification button. Be made aware of it. Thanks to people like James Dean, who does a great job in supporting the channel. I really appreciate memberships as its benefits to. There's certain booklets, which I've got behind me there, as well as the other test booklet there. Will be available for people as well. All right, so pretty happy to win there, guys. So please view, like, and share, and join me on further discussions. It's pretty late here in Australia. Talk to you tomorrow. All the best.